to Leading the Way podcast, where you'll learn neuroscience-backed ways to lead more effectively and have more fun at work with what you already have. Hey there, and welcome back to Leading the Way. So glad to have you here, and so glad to have my awesome guest, LJ. LJ, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. I feel so honored and
Oh,
excited.
yeah. We're honored too. So for all my friends on listening, here's why I think LJ is so great, among other things. She speaks and teaches and writes about self-care and spirituality through her own podcast, Tune You, through her self-published books, through her transformative group events, and her individualized practice with one-on-one with so many people. You know, she's sharing the power of personal practices, perspectives, and psychology. She aims to help you create a lifestyle and a focus and an energy to elevate your state of mind, your state of being, and your state of consciousness. Now, LG's got over 20 years of experience working with adults and children as a yoga therapist and a meditation instructor. Integrating her master's in psychology, she also brings a unique approach designed to inspire and inform you how to tune you every day. So welcome again, LJ. So glad to have you here.
Thank you so much. Excited to see how and where this goes. I know
Yeah.
it'll be great.
Yeah. So, fellow leaders out there, it can be stressful to be a leader. If we're being honest about it, we sometimes pretend that it's not, but we've got all sorts of things coming at us. It can be economic stressors. It can be maybe we're not getting along with the coworker or someone on our team or someone above us. Stuff in our personal life is eking in, even though we like to pretend like personal and business are separate. We bring our same human to all of those events, right? And so if we're stressed out in one, it spills into the other. And then, being humans, we can have micro traumas or larger things that happened in our past that bubble up. We might have thought we already dealt with it, and this little thing bubbles up. I'm like, oh, so all kinds of stressors are coming at us as leaders. And if we're being the great servant leaders that we want to be for our team, that can affect our team as well. So lots of pressures coming at us. One of many great practices can be yoga and meditation, which is more popular probably in Western culture than it's been in decades. But at the same time, I would argue maybe we're not using it as well or as much as we could. And LJ, you're in this space, you're the expert. What do you think about that? Are people turning to that enough? What do you see in your clients?
Oh, yeah. This is definitely one of my biggest passions within getting to talk about and teach about things like yoga and meditation is I do feel like we've in some ways missed some of the essences of these practices and how much they really can be about this inner work we can be doing and this managing of our energy that we can be doing. And so I see that as we lean into that awareness, I'm excited to like free up the word yoga and help us see what it really is and how we can use it and how we can also personalize it so much. So yeah, I'm thrilled to keep sharing like what I keep realizing these practices can be about and how much they can help us take care of ourselves mentally, physically, emotionally, energetically, and even helping foster that sense of spiritual connection if we like that, which I've come to see really can just mean looking for some deeper meaning in life, whatever we call that. And then it's so powerful to consider how that plays into being a leader. Like I love what you said about how it does bring and involve more stress to be a leader. And we now know more than ever how much stress is at the root and cause of most of our disturbances, right? Whether it's mentally, physically, emotionally, and how much that does play into how we can create and show up and manage problems, right? And just be with other humans, right? It really does affect how we're going to show up and that everybody around us feels our energy. We know these things now more than ever. So yeah, I see that when we decide or choose or are willing to be more of a leader, it does mean that we need to be willing to step up that self-care to manage the inherent stress of being a leader and that's how it's going to probably flow its most smoothly and that we can have our best effect, right? If we've really honed our practices to take care of ourselves so we can show up and do a lot of the opposites of stress too, which is just to relax, which is a big lesson of the practices of yoga and meditation. So yeah, I love to see we could really get into it so much more simply and deeply in how we can use these approaches, especially as leaders. Yeah.
Right. Great point. So two things popped in my brain, but I'll just one of them is you talk about inner work. A lot of times that can
Mm,
be something that can feel scary, right? We've something happened in
mm,
our past or something we don't really just want to talk about or
mm,
uncomfortable about, right? And so the human nature can be to package that with fear. And if we don't know what to do about it, don't know how to handle it, this thing just kind of sits there.
mm.
And it can be easy to be afraid to go there, right? Or it can feel squishy or woo or whatever. I'm just curious with the folks you work with and your vast experience, like once someone gets comfortable with that and they have a way to get
Mm.
there, whatever form that is, that release of energy has got to be massive, right? And their ability to do more, serve more, be more has got to be accelerated, yeah?
Right. And yeah, and I think part of what you brought up a little earlier is that even in being leaders, we might even get triggered more because of like the courage and involved in being a leader. So, but beautifully, we're getting the opportunity. Now we know more than ever trigger means it's something that's triggering something within us, right? Which is
Mm,
related to what we've stored within us from our past and things like these micro traumas or macro traumas just in being human. And
right.
I've been loving learning more than ever that that's what practices like yoga are supposed to be about, like recognizing that we store these things within us. In yoga, the word is samskaras, which is like leaves an impression in us. And things like Buddhism talk about this, even things like Jesus was talking about these things in many ways, but that we can learn to apply these practices, things like meditation, mindfulness, inquiry, noticing, bringing in that compassion and awareness, and also finding ways to just shift and change how we're using the mind and understanding the emotions. But I think what's most powerful and different here is the holistic approach that it's all energy, that
Hmm.
this is like stored energy. And so when we start to address it as energy, which means, yes, being aware of it, doing what we can in the mind, but also using things like breath and
Mm,
relaxation and really retraining how we work with things like our stored emotions. And then also then the good news is we start to learn now to move through life without letting it be a reason to store more stuff that, yeah, right, that's going to just block us, that's going to put us more in fear and have that different strain on us in all the ways. And then what's cool that yoga and these methods teach is that, yeah, we are made of energy. And you could even call it like life force, God, energy, Shakti. And that those blockages, yes, could be kind of blocking some of our experience of that. But then the good news is once we start to learn to free that up, we
mm,
can start to have that experience of more energy and even more like life force and even more like feelings like God and happiness and peace. And that's where I think these traditions have gotten that reputation somewhere, that somewhere, somehow it's about that peace
yeah.
and love. And so, yeah, I'm loving seeing that these are some real tangible ways because I've been interested in mental health, mental emotional health. I see for all of my adult career and life through the things I've studied and then gravitating towards yoga. But it's awesome to realize that that's what yoga really is and can be about. I get so much from Michael Singer, who wrote The
Hmm.
Untethered Soul. It turns out, if you listen to him, he's talking about yoga all the time. Like I listen to his podcast a ton right now, but almost every time he's like, this is what yoga is. He's like, the asana or the exercises are just one of the parts, but it's really about this inner work that you can be doing. And yeah, through letting things like triggers not be something to hide from, but something to grow from, right? And
Yeah.
that's what we're learning. But again, the real difference from just traditional psychology or even psychotherapy or the mental approach is that we're addressing it as energy. And so that's
Mm,
what I'm seeing. And the whole somatic approach that it's something to do with the body. Somatic just means soma means body. So as we start to now, oh yeah, I have these things stored, but let's go at it not only mentally but also energetically with
mm,
breath and relaxation and movement and stillness and sound and all the things that can help change our energy basically and free that up. So yeah,
yeah.
that's some of where I'm seeing and again, I see it so empowering because it's like this is this inner work we can do and really only we can do. Although
Right.
I think the last things I'll say on that is I think that part of why yoga brings in things like the importance of compassion and
Hmm.
meditation talks right with ourselves and even things like community. like sangha is a term from one of the limbs of yoga that's always taught. It's really important to have the right community and support, right? And so as
Hmm.
we're going through this inner work, it's not about just being alone in it.
Hmm.
And it is so about having the right support in who we're talking to, who we're listening to, who we're friends with, right? Who we're reaching out to. So I think those are some of the things that can make it less scary is the compassion and the community. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, just seeing it's about kind of retraining through our practices.
Love that. I
Um,
love that. As you were talking, I was reflecting and geeking out on the neuroscience side, which is
uh-huh.
my current filter on the world and some things. And
Yeah.
it's interesting where either the neuroscience is catching up, or what's been going on for thousands of years in yoga, or there's a
Yeah.
joining there of
Mm-hmm.
we only have so much energy. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we consume so many calories and we have so much electrical energy physically in our bodies. We're in our nervous system, right? The electrons flowing. And if that's taken up by things that aren't serving us well, there's less energy for things that serve us well. Our
Mm-hmm.
body is a massive conserver of energy, and that's a lot of our fight flight systems and all that come from that. Is its job is to kind of keep us regulated and use as little energy as possible. But and when we do things that are change or new or different, it takes a different energy to get there. So
Mm.
I would imagine yoga, meditation, all of that, right? They meld together because it really, like you said so well, it is all about energy. And even taking, I think the spiritual part of that's incredibly important, by the way, but just at the
Mm-hmm.
surface level of just the physical electrons in our body
Yes.
that you can measure
Right.
with a CAT scan, you're freeing that up, right? You're getting it to move around, you're getting to use it in different ways, and that movement's very powerful. So it's exciting to talk about that. Anyway, I digress. One thing that you were talking about, I want to talk a little bit more is I think a lot of folks, and myself included, can think about, oh, yoga means I need to go to a studio and work out with a mat and get all
Mm.
sweaty with Bikram, or
Mm.
meditation means I need to go to,
Mm.
some special place and be perfect for 30 minutes and sit in very uncomfortable stances and it's going to hurt.
Mm.
And I know from Tune You and your work, yes, you can do that, and that's important as part of the mix. But there's just little things you can do all day, every day. Can you share some concepts of that and how people just can
Yeah.
incorporate it in their everyday?
Yeah. And this is where it's funny because from what you just said, I wanted to say this anyways, and it goes perfectly with this answer also that also from Michael Singer, I get that that's where we can see that like relaxation is the primary technique.
Mm,
That's what, and that you can see that that's really what all these things are helping us do. And when we get back to what you were just describing about the fact that yes, we're just made of energy, our atoms are bound, our cells and are all bound together by energy, right? It's all energy. So just in relaxing, consider the difference energetically for our energy and the energy that we are. So that's where
right.
I'm just so pumped to keep sharing the simplicity of it, to just be like, it can really just be about practicing relaxing. And or I just posted today, one of
Yeah.
my favorite teachers, Eric Schiffman, said, becoming as tension free as you can be. So it really doesn't have to involve a stretch or a pose or a mat or a pillow.
Okay.
And so it can be really, I love to share anything that's going to help you get into that awareness. Yes, a mindfulness and a presence, but, and then also just practicing relaxing. It sounds crazy simple, but true. And even just with these ideas of these inner blockages and triggers and things, it's like, it can really just be about relax instead. And, like Michael
Mm,
Singer will talk about neurosis. Our neurosis is often where we're operating from, which is, that mind and often the thought patterns that aren't so helpful and related to those things we've stored within us. But you can see like the opposite of neurosis is relaxation.
right.
So, and then that's where we use all sorts of tricks and things like yoga and meditation to help us relax with our breath, with movement and postures that can help. And that's where I also love to share with things like the exercises of yoga. More of us could benefit from just the restorative stuff. Not
Mm,
even, I mean, I'm kind of like screw sun blues. I mean, do them if you want to. And I
right.
am into the power of a personal practice with the right exercises. But for a lot of us, just adding some of the restful positions that are like magic on our nervous system and really
Mm,
reversing that fight or flight and getting us back into calm through helping stimulate that vagus nerve that so many of us are hearing about and talking
yep.
about. And then back to what you're talking about with brain chemistry and what we're learning about how the brain works optimally, like to consider how even just things like relaxing is going to help your brain function better, right? And even things
Right.
like being able to relax the mind and have it be as simple as that, like just try relaxing your mind, even just for a few seconds at a time. We
Yep.
now know that like really does some curative effects on the mind and like boosts our creativity. I'm sure those are some of the things that you've seen in like the research you're involved in and studying, and things like flow states, right? If we're interested in things like getting into our flow states, to
Hmm.
consider how, again, just the simplicity of relaxation as the primary technique, right? It really, it's like, could it really be that easy?
Yeah.
But yeah, and even like as I feel myself laughing, to think like now we know things like laughter, right, is such an amazing thing to allow in our lives, but just the energy of that and how it
Yeah.
even triggers a relaxation. So yeah, I think that somehow I would like to answer that. And then
Yeah.
I think it's just about, to me, I really see it's about, and it definitely doesn't have to be about going anywhere. I'm very into our practices we can do like at home on our
Hmm.
own in our mornings, even though it can be super fun to go to group things and learn with people. But it's really nice if we can kind of customize our own little routine of whatever I like to say tunes us, mentally, physically, emotionally, even
Mm.
spiritually. Um, and that I think you're aware of that book, the one about our mornings. What's it called? Morning Magic or something. Where it really honed in on like what are the things that seem to be across the board with many leaders and successful people that they
Right.
seem to do in their morning routine to be successful.
Right.
And I think, it can be like taking a little time to write, a little time for movement, a little time for silence, a little
Mm.
time for maybe music. I don't even remember. There's like 7 different things where you can
Right.
even see, like, even if you just did 1 minute of each of those things. So yeah, I'm into encouraging people to find out what works for them. It might be petting your cat. It might be just sitting with your morning coffee. It might be taking a walk. It might be surfing, it might be taking a bath. But yeah, I think keeping it simple. And then that's what a yoga lifestyle can be, is just
Nice.
doing what you can to build that in.
Yeah, it's, and just carrying that a step further, as you were saying that, I was thinking about, okay, one of the things leaders can struggle with is capacity. Generally, there's more work to be done than it
Mm.
feels like there's the team to do it. And it can feel like we're in a state of lack a lot about that. And we
Mm-hmm.
need more. We need more staff, or we need less stuff, or we need to change priorities. What I think is really interesting to play with a little bit, not to create a sweatshop where people are working 80 hours a week and burning that out, but what if you could help your team, and that needs to be their choice. This can't
Mm.
be a top-down thing, but you help your team to access tools like this. If it's not meditation and
Mm-hmm.
yoga, fine, but tools like it that get them to calm, which leads for all of us to get to our cerebral cortex, where innovation happens, where new
Mm.
solutions come from, right?
Ooh.
You've just created capacity for your team to do more and also
Yeah.
enjoy more with what you already have. You didn't have to buy anything. Well, maybe you invest in a program and work with people, but it's not going to be a $2 million software asset, or, a big three accounting firm coming in and telling you what you already know. It's it's using the brilliance of the people you already have on your team. And it's a little different setting them up for a win. A lot of times leaders, we
Oh
think about
man.
setting up for a win. Let's get all the obstacles out of the way and red tape.
Mm.
But like, what if we create an environment where people are able to make that choice, right? Because I am a believer that it's
Mm.
got to come from the individual choosing it. If I say to
Mm-hmm.
my team, like, go do
Mm-hmm.
yoga and meditate, and they're
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, Chris, I'll go do that,
Mm-hmm. Totally.
right? But if I make it safe for them and they choose that, they're gonna have more capacity.
Mm.
And it's like you said, is it really that simple?
Mm.
It could be. I
Yeah. And
mean,
I think that's so innovative. And that part of what I was just starting to think is how related to the opposite of stress is play.
right,
Right? We now know
right,
that play is actually so relaxing for us, and it is the opposite of stress physiologically. And I love, like, yeah, what we're talking about is being able to like change your state of mind and your state of being, and take care of your state of mind and your state of being, and how much that's going to affect your productivity and creativity and all the things. I love
yeah,
that about the cerebral cortex. But yeah, so you can. start to see that when you're realizing that you're doing that with and just being more in moment to moment awareness with ourselves can be a lot of what it's about. Just remembering to, one of the teachers I love, Tara Brock, talks about the sacred pause and just
Mm.
making it a moment throughout the day to just pause, kind of check out how you're doing, especially on the inside. And then if anything, just try relaxing more instead. And so like play is such a great form of that too. And so I love that more business settings are having play, at least innovative places, right? They have a room where there's like play opportunities for the employees. So I think that is a great start. And absolutely teaching our staff or bringing, and I definitely, that's a dream, is I would love to be going into more like workplace settings and sharing,
Mhm.
a short talk with some people to hook them up with, yes, here's how you can start using this in your moments, in your office, in your meetings, and that it's pretty exciting to consider what can change as we all start to learn to take care of ourselves differently. And really a lot of it is just the whole energetic understanding, to just be like, oh, I'm energy, and that this is all energy, and how I'm feeling tells me about, what energy I'm in and what energy I'm bringing. And
Yeah.
but then to think of the vibe that you're going to change with your staff if you just, yeah, help them find, and even just do what you can to create a workplace that has the good feeling energy, right? And the things we now know that can help with that, I think, is amazing. Or even just having music, right? Music's such an energy shifter and lifter.
Hmm.
So I think, yeah, I
So
love
many good
that.
tips. So many good tips.
Mm,
The breath, the pause, the gamification, and talked on another podcast about this briefly. But you can do gamification even when you're working
mm,
remote. There's all kinds of tools where I've done it at previous employers where everything was our status reports were all converted to a Jeopardy game that we played online. So instead of someone reading you a PowerPoint,
mm,
which is going to put you in super low frequency, low energy, not interested, right?
mm-hmm,
You're playing a game, and the team
mm,
will now no longer accept status reports any other way. It's really kind of cool what can happen. And yeah, that's maybe a
amazing.
little nerdy IT tech thing, but I think that would work in finance. I think it would work in anything.
Right?
And it's
Just
just
the gamification of life, right?
right.
Any
And
as much as,
yeah, and if you don't like Jeopardy, pick another game, right? But just that little bit of extra effort to create some fun and interaction, really, it boosts your team. It boosts the output of the team.
absolutely, right?
Get people to stick to you as a leader, big time. Attrition is a thing, and folks know they have choices more now than ever, especially high
Mm-hmm.
performers. And yes, there's a naturalness of people leaving. You're not going to keep someone probably with you for a lifetime. That's rare anymore to see someone stay 40 years. But in their time they're with you, they're going to be so much more productive. And when it comes time for them to be in a different role, you've got now a really strong network of people that like, gosh, I love working with LJ. She was an awesome boss,
Mm,
right?
mm-hmm.
And that's really important as you grow in your career because you're going to move around places and you might get laid off or something. And like, I need a job. Let me call my
Right.
friends. And LJ is
Isn't
going to
that the
say,
truth?
Chris is rad. Go hire him, right?
Right. We've always heard that it's all about who you know. But, and because I've been getting a chance to play more with other humans as working at like a kids camp where part of my
Hmm.
job is to play with them. But just remembering how connecting it is to play with people. And it's
Yes.
such a different moment, especially nowadays, in how we can feel around other humans and more of a competitive and just not connected. So when
Right.
you're playing, it's like a shared meditation too, which is so cool when you're
Mm.
playing a game with people, like you're all in it. It's so mindful. And then, yeah, it's really so connecting. So I think, yeah, how amazing for more employers and leaders to realize that to play more with their employees, however they can, or their staff or their team, is going to build the team and build everybody's engagement and commitment, and even the ways they can co-create and communicate, right?
Yeah.
And then I also wanted to say I love the gamification word. That's so good, and bringing it back to like this inner work we can be doing, and with just things like relaxing and breathing. I love, like, Michael Singer will fun in a fun way bring, like, we can be seeing it as like an inner video game we're playing, just
Mm.
like with this
Mm.
awareness of the energies of our emotions and of our thoughts, and and just being willing to kind of go at it in a more playful way, and
Right.
then playing with what you can shift and change and release. And retrain. So I love that, but I love that the gamification all
I'm just
around
laughing because I had a
works.
colleague mention that life is a role-playing game, and I've been thinking about that a little bit because video
Ah,
games are very prevalent as a means of escape and everything
ooh,
else. But I'm like, oh, huh. That's
right?
probably a whole other podcast to talk that through.
Uh-huh. But and again, I think anything that just helps us feel more playful in life is going to just
Yeah,
be better for our nervous system, and we are going to be functioning a lot more optimally. So I feel like it is such a awesome time to be alive, right? To be what
absolutely.
we're learning about, how we how we most thrive and getting chances to apply it. So I do feel like I told you before we came on, more impassioned than ever about what I feel like I'm learning and what I'm excited to share and how much it can really change our lives in the world. It sounds kind of
Yeah,
corny, but it's like as more of us learn to do this inner work and again addressing it all as energy, and it really is amazing to think how it could change our lives, but also the world and how we're interacting, right?
yeah. So
Yeah.
well said, LJ. So
Mm.
this is 1,000,000% your zone of brilliance, and where you're great and serve other people. How can folks listening in, watching, engage with you? What's a good next step for them?
Yeah. Thanks for asking. Well, I do share on social media like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, just videos and posts that I'm excited about and creating. So that is one way to connect with me and follow me. So most of my accounts are under Tune You, Tune, with LJ. And
Nice,
on Facebook, I'm Laura Jane. Um, and yeah, and then on TikTok, I'm the same, Tune You with LJ, and also on YouTube, which I'm getting ready to start posting on more.
nice.
And then the podcast is Tune You on all the platforms. And I love to just share there what inspires me and getting ready to have more conversations on there again, like looking forward to having you on again. I
Sure,
know I got to
sure.
have an interview with you a few years ago.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. And then if you ever just want to reach out, I am here with helping people create personal practices with their home life. And then I do like to put together group events in person and online. So you could stay
nice.
tuned for those as they come about. So I think
Awesome.
that's the main stuff. Yeah. Thank
We'll put
you.
that in the show notes. So if you're on the treadmill or
Okay.
driving, don't feel like you've got to write that down and put yourself in a dangerous position. So we'll put those all in the show notes. You can click below, and I encourage you. LJ does stellar work.
Mm,
Before we wrap up this session, I always love to ask my guests, what's something you're thankful or grateful for right now?
mm, gosh. Well, I think I just want to say like the power of podcasting and these kind of conversations. Like I love how you and I didn't really know what was going to come through. We knew it was going to be good and meaningful and even surprise us. So I love the co-creation of doing something like this, right? It's so fun
Yeah.
to just drop in and be present and mindful. So yeah, I'm choosing to say that right now, but I'm really into the power of gratitude. I use it a lot and I think it's one of our biggest tools. So yeah,
Nice.
thanks for helping us end on a high note, right? Like
Yeah,
George
absolutely.
Costanza.
Nice. I might resemble him here. Got a little receding going. Yeah.
Aw,
Um, thank you so much for being on, LJ. And
thank you.
thanks everyone for listening in. And be sure to subscribe and click you like it and all that awesome stuff. So the algorithm, make sure that you see all these other podcasts that are coming your way. We've got a bunch of other brilliant people coming as well, and excited to share that with you. Keep leading the way.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to Leading the Way podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe so you won't miss other great episodes like this one. And if you're ready for more in your workplace, be sure to go to aintent.com. You'll find lots of free tools, assessments, and ways to engage directly with us to get your own epic results. We'll see you there.